Imagine it's the 1940s and you're navigating a German aircraft. Legibility and precision are paramount as you soar high above the clouds. You flick the wrist to determine the plane's exact position, and there you see a Laco wristwatch. The design blueprint of the modern-day Whatawatches Laco limited edition Augsburg and Aachen watches featured in this review. Now, I've always been intrigued by Flieger watches and believe every collector should at least own one or experience one during their collecting journey. And in my opinion, Laco is one of the best when it comes to value and honoring the enduring Flieger watch aesthetic so many collectors come to love. That's why I'm excited to share with you my thoughts on these two very special examples of the pilot watch. But first, what is a Flieger watch anyways? The term Flieger is German for flyer and is commonly used to categorize military-issued pilot watches during World War II, and the modern timepieces inspired by them. You've no doubt seen Flieger watches in the wild. They often feature clean, legible dials with minimal to no text, easy to grip crowns, and, of course, leather straps. The earliest examples date to the 1930s, and the B-or timepieces developed for the German Air Force. So only a select few watch manufacturers were commissioned to produce these watches, including Stova, Wempe, A. Lange & Söhne, IWC, and of course, Laco. Today, these brands are largely responsible for keeping the time-honored design codes of the original Flieger watches alive. Flieger watches were initially produced with Type A dials like the Laco Augsburg, the cleanest and simplest dial type. They sport that famous triangle at 12 o'clock, flanked by dots and a single hour ring with Arabic hour markers. On the other hand, Type B dials like the Laco Aachen follow it shortly after and are a bit busier. They have two rings, one displaying minutes around the outer edge of the dial in 5-minute increments, and another inner ring displaying the hours. Flieger watches deserve a spot in any watch box for 5 basic reasons. Heritage. Now, Flieger watches really have serious roots dating all the way back to the 1930s and German military aviation. The second is legibility. As with many pilot watches, legibility is an absolute necessity which Flieger watches have in spades. Next is, well, simplicity. Being legible also means keeping it simple. There should be no unnecessary text or mechanisms that detract from the readability or functionality of the dial. The next is timelessness. Flieger watches are still widely sought after today, proving that they can withstand the ever-changing life of watch trends. And lastly, they are distinctly German. It was primarily in German watch manufacturers tasked with producing early Flieger watches. As a result, the unmistakable pilot watch aesthetic is closely associated with German watchmaking. Now, today's video is sponsored by the fine folks over at Whatawatches, who have collaborated with Laco to develop 2 limited edition watches from the Laco Augsburg and Aachen collections. Both watches do a fantastic job of celebrating the unique designs of a true Flieger watch, but with a handful of notable features reserved for the Whatawatches collab. The most obvious is the Super-Luminova Old Radium decorating the dial, giving both watches that well-worn look of a true heirloom timepiece. You might also notice the Laco logo has been blacked out to blend in with the rest of the dial, a design choice that resembles the original B-or dial. Whatawatches CEO James Kim best describes the aesthetic of the hidden logo in the words of St. Augustine: "What is not seen is not necessarily non-existent." The Laco logo is proudly displayed on the basic models, so a logo will be present unless you're spending a little over $1,000 for Laco's Pilot Watch original line, like my Laco Leipzig. It's a great option for anyone who doesn't like logos. These watches were meant to be authentic replicas of the Flieger watches worn by the German Luftwaffe in the 1940s. That's why they have large metal rivets securing the leather straps to the case and a faux patina that mimics the radium hour markers that have been aged over time. At the same time, the watches deliver the convenience of a modern-day Laco 2S automatic movement with a 42-hour power reserve. Also, I love the case with its brushing. It gives the watches a really nice matte appearance. If you've ever tried on an IWC pilot watch, both Laco models feel pretty similar on the wrist. And compared to my Leipzig model, which is truer to the original designs, they wear more comfortably. I think it mostly has to do with the curved lugs versus the straight lugs of the original models. I also have to say that Whatawatches was smart to go with the 39mm case, as the 42mm variant probably wouldn't feel as comfortable. I mean, sure, pilot watches are traditionally huge, but if you like the aesthetic of a pilot watch but want to actually enjoy wearing it for daily use, 39 millimeters is perfect. However, if you absolutely just hate smaller cases, stay tuned as Whatawatches has plans for a 42 millimeter version of both Laco models coming out pretty soon. You also have to consider that because this watch is all dial, it appears a lot larger on your wrist than you think. At first, I wasn't a fan of the straps out of the box as they seemed to be a little too distressed for my liking. But after spending a bit more time with them, I began to appreciate the vintage-inspired strap combo. The strap itself is very high quality and really well done. One of the best out of the box, so I'm pretty impressed. Now, I know I said before that I prefer B-type dials, but the simplicity of the A-type dial on the Augsburg really won me over in the end. I have a soft spot for Laco, as this was my first experience owning a nice watch years ago. I'm usually a purist when it comes to heritage brands like Laco, and that's the reason why I chose to personally go with the model that closely resembles the original designs. But these ones changed my mind on Laco's basic entry-level pilot watches. There's nothing entry-level about them, from the finish to the feel on the wrist. So if you're interested in the Whatawatches limited edition variants of the Augsburg and Aachen, please be sure to use my link in the description below. But just a heads up, they are just limited to 60 pieces each. So if you really love them, you definitely don't want to sleep on this one. And as always, I'm Chris, this channel is Clicky Bezel, and we'll see you on the next one.